Hello and welcome to this episode of Simply Saturday. My name is Julie and I'm here today to show you how to make a fast and easy card. The stamp set that we'll be using is called Memorable Blooms. And let me tell you, this is a new stamp set. Actually, I bought the bundle, so I have the coordinating dies. And I will be using this a lot in the coming days and weeks. But today's card for Simply Saturday is going to be a little bit different style than I've been doing recently with lots of designer series paper and so forth. We are not using any designer series paper, but you are going to want to grab a black ink pad and something to color with. So let's get started. I am using a thick white cardstock base for my card. And by the way, this can go this way, or if you want your card to open this way, it can go this way. Either way, it's a half sheet of cardstock and it is the thick white. Then I have a piece of regular weight cardstock. This is actually just going to go right on the front. It's a very effective and classy look of putting the white panel onto the white, and that's what we're going to do. All right, let's do our stamping. I'm using the largest stamp in that set, Memorable Blooms, and I'm using my Memento black ink. Now, this is a large stamp, and so it's easier for me to, in this case, flip the stamp over like so and take my ink pad to the stamp. So if that works for you, or you could also use a stamp positioner. Perhaps you have the no longer available Stamparatus, or maybe you use a MISTI tool. This would be a great stamp to grab your positioning tool and use. All right, so I have my black ink on my stamp, and I'm going to stamp this kind of over a little bit here to the left side and a little bit at an angle like so. And I'm going to press that down, waiting a moment, give the ink a chance to settle into the cardstock. When you're doing your stamping, especially on a large stamp, you want to make sure that you're pressing down straight and firmly, but not wiggling or rocking your stamp. All right, there's our stamped image. Now, also with the black ink, I'm going to add my words, and I am going to go ahead and use this. You've been on my mind. And here it is. It's sitting right here, and I'm looking all around for that stamp. Silly. All right, and I'm just going to put this at the top right corner. And that's all the stamping we're doing. All right, now I'm going to take my coloring tools, and I'm using Stampin' Blends. I'm using 6 markers. I've chosen to use Bubble Bath in the light and the dark, and also Granny Apple Green in the light and the dark, and then Mossy Meadow in the light and the dark. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out the largest leaves in my image, and I'm going to color them with light Mossy Meadow. So here we go. Even though we're going to color, this is going to go very fast. All right, so I'm looking for only the large style leaf, and there are 5 of them. So there's 1. Now I'm using the large brush tip of my Stampin' Blend, but if you prefer to use the smaller bullet end to have a little bit more control, you can definitely do that. There's the second of the 5 large leaves. There are lots of different coloring techniques with the Stampin' Blends, which, by the way, the Stampin' Blends are alcohol-based markers. And what that means to me is not only that they blend with each other very nicely, but that I don't get streaks when I'm coloring because of the way that the alcohol ink evaporates. It's a pretty smart thing that somebody figured out, and I get the benefit of just using it as a tool and not having to figure out how it works. All right, there are the 5 large leaves. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my dark mossy meadow, and I'm just going to go along the line that is down the center of the leaf. You can do this or not. I'm just adding a little bit of dimension by doing that. And by the way, if you do that and then you think that it looks too dark or too obvious, you can always go back with your light and just blend it out a little bit, which I don't think I need to do, but I did that on a couple of them just to show you. All right, the next thing we're going to do is take the lightest green that we're using. So that's Granny Apple Green, and I'm going to do the smallest leaves. And the quickest way for me to find these and point them out to you are they are going to be the small plain leaves. They don't have any lines in them. So I've got a couple up here. So see how they're just open shaped leaves with no lines in them. That is a flower bud, so I'm not going to color that on accident. So I am going for all of the tiny leaves that don't have any lines in them. So your eyeballs can pick those out pretty quickly. Any more in here? Those have lines, those have lines, those have lines. If I missed any, I'll come back and get them afterwards. All right, now I'm going to take my Granny Apple Green in the dark and color the remaining leaves. So now I've got the rest of the couple of leaves that do have lines in them. And by using this combination of the greens and the different shades, I get a really nice look at how all these blend together. All right, there's just a couple more. All right, so in review, we found all 3 of the types of leaves, the largest, the smallest, and then the in-between ones, which have the little lines or the shading already on them. Now I'm going to go back to my lightest green, my Granny Apple Green Light, and using the bullet tip. I like to do this, but you don't have to do it. I'm just going to go on each of the stems. I feel like it gives it a little bit of a pop, but it is one extra step that if you don't want to do for the sake of time, you could skip. I think I got them all. If anything pops up as I'm going, I'll go back and fix it. Okay, now for the flowers. This is going to go very fast. I'm going to use my lightest shade. So this is the Bubble Bath Light, and I'm going to color all of the flowers. So I'm using the brush tip. You don't have to be super careful. One nice thing about how these markers work is the ink just kind of flows. So if you get close to the outline, it almost swells and then ends up filling the all the way out to the outline. So because the brush tip is a fatter tip, I don't get right up to the edge, but I get close to it, and then the ink ends up filling itself in. Obviously, you can change your color structure. I've got like a little, I don't know what that is, but I don't want it to cause a problem. It was like a little speck, and even though these markers don't bleed, it almost looked like it wanted to bleed. All right, back to my pink flowers. Okay, we've got those all filled in with our light pink. Now I'm going to take the darker pink. I think that the smallest flowers, the little buds, would be darker. I feel like they're a little bit darker. I'm really not very artistic, but sometimes I notice things in nature, and I feel like the little bud of the flower is going to be dark, and then once it opens up, it kind of looks more pale. So I'm going to come into these little buds, there's only a couple of them, and just paint them, color them a little bit darker. So this is with Bubble Bath Dark. Let's see, that's 3 of them so far. That's good. Now, what I'm going to do is just take a quick peek on the rest of my flowers. This one here has some interesting little additional lines on it, so I'm going to use that to my advantage as shading. And I'm going to add my darker pink there. I'm going to make this bottom petal a little bit darker. I'll do the same here. And these two bottom ones. And the flip side of this, you can see the artist added a little extra line there. All right, then the last thing I'm going to do, coming to my 3 largest flowers that have the centers showing, I'm going to take my marker and I'm just going to color from the center kind of out like this, so that it's looking like the center is darker, but the center was stamped black. So all I'm doing is adding a little bit of color as it spills onto the center of that petal. And it looks very nice. All right, and that is it, my friends. That is the end of the coloring. It looks beautiful, it looks artsy, and it looks very classy. All right, we're gonna attach this to our card front. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it flat with my green glue. If you wanted to put dimensionals on here and have it popped up, you could do that. This is also an interesting time to show you that on regular weight cardstock, when you color with your Stampin' Blends, it will show through. So you have to just keep that in mind when you're creating a card where that might show, and then all of a sudden you get disappointed that you didn't think about it ahead of time. This is not going to matter because this is going to go onto here and it's not going to show through on the second layer. I've got a little dried spot there. You know how that happens. All right, I'm going right close to the edge, but not right up to the edge. I don't want any glue oozing out and making a sticky card front. And then I'm going to line this up, attempting to get an equal border on the right, the left, the top, and the bottom. By using my multi-purpose adhesive, my glue, I'm able to slide it around a little bit and get it where I want it. All right, once it's in place, I'm going to flip the whole thing over to do my pressing. We're doing such a white card, I don't want to take a chance of anything that might be on my fingers becoming smeary on the front. So that's why I'm not pressing it on the front. All right, so give that a nice firm press. And there we have our absolutely stunning little note card. In this case, I am leaving the inside just unstamped. You can go ahead and put your message there. I did a similar card and I added one extra step. So let me show you that in case you want to take it up one level. That would be to take your pink marker. You've seen me do this a time or two before. And actually use the cap and do a flicking technique so that you get some little splatters. If you can see that, it's very fine, it's very delicate, and that is what I did on this version. So I put my little pink splatters up in this corner and in the bottom corner just to add a little extra something. So if that is beautiful to you and you want to do that, you will do that before you glue it onto your card base. And that is our card for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the time that you take to watch these videos. And until next time, happy stamping.